Hey all, Lucas here. Today we're going to talk about design patterns from this book, Design Patterns by the Gang of Four, this version in Portuguese. And we're going to do that by creating a real app. So I've built an app called the Message Crafter, which is pretty much an integration with the WhatsApp API from Meta. And here's how it works. We have conversations, and each type of conversation is handled by a strategy. And inside each strategy, we have a set of steps that are processed by a chain of responsibility. So whether you are onboarding a customer or sending a follow-up message, the app will know exactly what to do next. So let's jump in and see how we can explore this structure to create a message assistant. Okay? So guys, before we go to the project, let's check it out about the strategy pattern. I don't want to go very deep inside the theory, but I'd like to recommend this website, the Refactoring Guru, because it's a very straightforward website when it comes to explain these concepts. Okay, so the strategy pattern is a behavioral design pattern that lets you define a family of algorithms, put each of them into a separate class, and make their objects interchangeable. This is the formal concept. There is another one down here that says the strategy pattern suggests that you take a class that does something specific in a lot of different ways and extract all these algorithms into a separate class called strategies. So translating, basically you have a goal, but sometimes you need different ways to accomplish the same goal. For example, if you have a navigator system, I'm using the website example, and you want to build the routes from A to B using different contexts. You could do that by using the road strategy, the walking strategy, and the public transport strategy. For the navigator class, there is only the build route method where you have the A and B parameters. It doesn't matter for the navigator class how are you going to implement the math, if I could call that. So the strategy comes to solve that problem. Instead of implementing a lot of messy logic like if-else inside the navigator class, we can use dependency injection to use the specific strategy to pass via constructor method to the navigator class the specific strategy. And the good news is you can change from one class to the other without changing the main class, which is the navigator class. Okay, this is the same for a payment processor context. So as I said, the strategy pattern lets you choose different ways to do something without changing how the rest of your code works. Using a payment processor as an example, I could have a lot of ways to make the payment. I could use the PayPal approach or the Stripe approach as well. For the payment processor, it doesn't matter. It would implement a pay method, and I could use the same approach. Have a strategy interface, have the respective strategies that will implement the interface, And for the consumer, the payment processor, I would only use the constructor method to pass the provider, which is an interface. And here I would call the pay method. That's how it works. I am decoupling the implementation from this component and make sure I have a clean approach here. That's how the strategy pattern works. And how I'm using that pattern inside my project. Let's check it out. Okay guys, so let's check it out, the project. And the project it's using the Laravel framework, Laravel 12, PHP 8.4. But a disclaimer here, I think more than 80% of what I'm gonna show you is framework agnostic. It's programming language agnostic. So don't worry. It's everything OOP. Okay. So the important thing is the concepts. Okay. Well, let's start with the project structure. Inside the app folder, we have the Laravel application. But I also have here in my composer a folder called domain. So this is the domain folder. And this is pretty much a modular approach where I have my bounded context inside specific folders. I know that when it comes to domain-driven design or some fancy architecture like hexagonal architecture or clean architecture, it doesn't matter the folders. The structure is not important. The important thing is to know what you're doing and respect the layers, respect the rules of the architecture. That's what really matters. So I could have only one folder. Doesn't matter the structure. But I like to use a well-organized structure for organization. I think it's for the best, right? So here I have my bounded context with this structure, and everything here it's about domain. So if you see a service here, this is about a domain service. If you see events here, this is about domain events. Okay, from domain-driven design. If you see entities here, it's not about not related to the framework. This folder is 100% framework agnostic. So for example, we have this is the main entity of the project, where we have a few actions, a few domain events being triggered, and a few domain errors as well. So exceptions, which are domain exceptions. Okay, good. Now that we understand the folders, what is the idea here? Let me go back to this guy here. Let me make a quick explanation for you guys. So let me do this. Clean architecture. I'm gonna get an image. The clean architecture. I think this is good. Or maybe this. I'm gonna copy this image and place here. So if we're going to follow 100% literally the way clean architecture suggests us to go, we would have to isolate everything from frameworks 100%. But there are some cases where we don't want to do that because it's a lot of work. So the framework I'm using, Laravel 12. this framework, for example, it's the kind of framework that is not good to isolate stuff, because the framework is too much opinionative, and they have a way of doing things which is known as the Laravel way. And this is not specific to Laravel. Spring Boot is like that. Symfony from PHP as well. We have, it's a little bit more modular, but we do have specific stuff from the framework. Why I'm saying that? Because the framework you choose will determine how much work you will have when you want to use an architecture like that. So what I did was to use only the red layer and the yellow layer from Clean Architecture, and the green layer and the blue layer I've used inside the app. So check it out, app. So it's the infrastructure and the application layer. They are together. Application business frameworks and drivers, interface adapters. If I would follow 100% the Clean Architecture, I would have to decouple everything. Nothing could get in touch with the framework, because framework stuff belongs to the infrastructure layer, frameworks and drivers here, the most external layer. Okay, so I think it's good. I think it's good to use the Clean Architecture sometimes and follow 100%. But let's call my structure a Clean Architecture inspired. Okay, I'm not gonna call my structure Clean Architecture. Okay, I'm not following 100%, but it is inspired because at least these two layers I'm using, the use case and the entities layer. And the use case are the application business rules. So where you can find the use case inside my actions, inside the app. And this is great because here I am free to use whatever I want, and I can mix infrastructure stuff from the framework with my use case. If I would use the Clean Architecture way, 100% following the recommendations, I would have to isolate my actions, which in my case they are my use case. Okay, but here you can see that I am using stuff from the framework. I'm using stuff from the application layer itself, but I am also using stuff from the framework. So yeah, now you see that I have actions here. I have some events as well, and I have repositories as well. I'm not using the Eloquent directly. I'm using the repository pattern here. Okay. Services here are external stuff, like the Meta integration, OpenAI, and so on. And support are specific implementations that doesn't have a specific place, so I've built inside this folder because they are support to all the application. Okay. Well, let's start. Let me see. This is the Postman, and as I said, let me show you how this works in practice. First, I'm gonna reset my database. I'm using Makefile, so if I type make-go, for example, this will build all my containers, run the composer install, npm install, vit. It's going to run Horizon as well. Everything inside a single command. using the make structure, just for you guys to check. Let me type go. Okay, I'm running Vite right now. I could have another one to make Horizon, which I'm not using right now, but it's ready to go for when we have events in the queued events in the future. And now I'm gonna reset db reset the database. This reset, it's like start from zero, migration and seeders. Okay, so if we check the database here, we already have some users, test user, and we have also contacts, my number as well. Please don't send me spam, don't send me messages, please. My email, my number. All right, I'm please asking you to not to do that. Okay. All right, so what else I can show you guys here around? Conversation empty, messages empty, message buttons empty as well. I think I can show you the UI a little bit. We have let me see the port. Let me close this. Here, the message crafter, the port, it is the Nginx 8070. So this is the app. All of this came from the starter kit. So let me check the user seeder. We have a fake guy here. I'm gonna copy this email and type password, and voila, we have this UI. This came with this Laravel starter kit. So it's not my code, okay? It's the stuff that comes with the Laravel starter kit. I'm using Vue.js here, so if you check here, everything is made with Vue and Inertia. So the components are all here. This is a full stack application. So the front end is together with the back end, but they are isolated inside these folder resource JS components, and here you go. Okay, and the backend inside application and domain, everything decoupled. What else? Yeah, let me show you around. Let me make let me use this Postman to start a conversation. Oh, I need to authenticate first. Okay, so here it is, the authentication, and I'm gonna start a conversation. So we already received a message here. And how this works, if I reply with I start course, I'm not going to see, because I'm running stuff locally. But if you go to the Meta developers area, you're going to see that we have this place to use the callback URL. This is where the Meta sends all the callbacks that you are subscribed to here. And I've put this inside Laravel Cloud. So this app is running in production right now as we speak. And this guy is here online already. It's the same app. If we check here the deployments, we're going to see that the last deployment was made 2 days ago. Okay, and so everything I send is going to come here. Look, start course. So this is the payload Meta sent us with the callback payload. This is what we need to use inside the others, inside the process callback endpoint. So there is a process callback endpoint that will process all these messages. Okay, so if I place here, the message will come with the next step. But how this works? Let's check it out about how this works. Okay, guys. So this is my routes file. If you check here, the start conversation endpoint, you will end up following here. And this is the Laravel starter kit stuff, and this is the meta webhook stuff, and this is the authenticated area, and this is the public callback from Meta as well. So if you go here, click on Zach, you're going to go to the controller. It's a very simple controllers. My controllers are only butlers. They only delivers the message to an action. Always like that. I don't like to use logic inside controllers. For me, it doesn't make sense because core logic is not reusable. And I think people say, create an extra class to place the logic that is reusable when you really need it. Okay, but when you really need it, you already have a lot of implementation. So if you need to migrate to a single class as a service or an action or a use case, you have to make sure the rest of the project still works. So we have to rely on unit tests and this kind of stuff. Usually people that don't worry about reuse code, they usually don't care about unit tests as well. So it's better to work earlier in isolating core logic inside actions than wait for some opportunity in the future that will be impossible to handle. So I don't like to place core logic inside controllers. It's only butlers. They are only messengers that will call a specific action and so on. So this is the action. The start conversation action. And the start conversation action is calling for, it's querying using the repository pattern for the contact, using the phone number as reference. And if we don't have a phone, we're going to have a resource not found exception. Actually, I think we don't need this anymore because my implementation of my repository, this is an interface I'm using, dependency inversion. My base repository already deal with errors. So I'm doing this query first, and I do think, let me see. Oh, there is a throw exception stuff. Interesting. Default to default is true. So the default one is true. So what I'm doing here is so it's So I don't need this. This is useless. I'm going to remove that. And here specifically, since inside my entity I'm going to need a repository that doesn't belong to the context, belongs to the conversation, I'm using this method to set the dependency, because down here I have some business rules related to the context that needs access to the conversation. But since context belongs to the domain layer, I can't just use a Laravel Eloquent or a repository here inside an entity, because entity belongs to the domain folder, which is framework agnostic. It can access external layers. Only the external layers can access the domain layers. Okay, inside the core domain, the core layer, clean architecture doesn't allow me to do that. I know that I'm not following 100% clean architecture, as I said in the beginning, but for the domain layer, I'm being very very hard, I'm following the rules, you know. Sorry. So for the domain layer, I'm really following the rules here. That's why I am setting this dependency here. And here I start the conversation. The domain entities have actions here. So what does the start conversation do? We make a verification, and after that we create a conversation, and after that I record a domain event. This is very interesting. Every domain event that happens here will reflect in a Laravel event, but this one I have to create an adapter, because the domain events, they are agnostic. So when I record a domain event, I'm using this trait that I created here, and this trait belongs to the domain shared folder. Domain shared folder. This is a trait only for entities that have domain events to deal with events. So I can record events, and I can also release domain events. But someone have to really implement these events, right? So I made this implementation agnostic to frameworks. So inside my application layer, I have a listener that will dispatch, that will publish the event. It's not a listener, it's more like a publisher. So every time I have to deal with an entity that will dispatch, that will trigger domain events inside my application layer, which is the layer that manages domain objects. Inside my use case, I can deal with domain events. I can deal with entities. I can deal with domain service. It's the domain orchestrator. The use case, the application service is the right place to manipulate and orchestrate all the domain objects. So it's the perfect place to, after I change the state of my domain, it's the perfect place to publish events. So there is this helper, a facade, and since my infrastructure layer are together with my application layer, it's okay for me to call facade here. This is not domain, this is application layer. And when I publish, it's dependency inversion as well, no? Right? So if I go here, I have this specific implementation, which is called Laravel domain event bus. And here I have all the logic to publish my domain events. But what you have to know is not the specific implementation I did to make this possible. It's everything inside the facade. You can just use it. It's a simple usage. What you have to know is that every domain event will have a Laravel event. For example, start conversation. I have this conversation started domain. This is the domain layer, right? But if I click here, I will find a reference for a conversation start event, which is inside the application layer. Now this is Laravel. This is 100% Laravel, okay? Here, this is a Laravel event. And where this magic happens? Inside the app service provider. Inside the app service provider, I have inside register, I have a method called byte events. And I do have a map where I say, hey, this domain event is related to this Laravel event. And if in the future I wanted to change my event manager for something else, a third-party library, maybe not the Laravel way to publish events, I could do that. Or if I migrate frameworks and I copy my domain in place in a framework like HyperF, PHP as well, Symfony, PHP as well, Slim framework, my domain will work the same way. I just have to make sure to create this map to the respective infrastructure event library that I will use in the future, okay? So yeah, the app service provider is the one to handle this guy, and so on. So okay, Lucas, all right, you've said a lot of stuff about your approach, about your implementation, but what about the design patterns, right? What about the strategy pattern? Well, let's get there, right? So the conversation started event will have what? A listener. There is a listener, and this listener, as I said, I don't like to implement stuff inside Laravel, classes. For me, they are only butlers like the controller. This is the same behavior as a controller for me. So this will end up calling an action as well. Everything goes through actions. Actions for everything. That's the way I like to go. And here it is. The action to send a start message after the conversation started, listener triggered the events, okay? And here I will get the message and I will send the message. So this will send the message using the meta template. Which template you are talking about, Lucas? Let's check it out. Quick setup. Let's see. I think this video is gonna be a big one. Unfortunately, message templates. And let me change to this company here, my company, and PHP training start. This is the template, okay? This is where I can set up the template. And there is a lot of kinds of messages I can, but the first message gotta be a template because this is checked by Meta, and this is the only way to send message to the customers for the first time. Otherwise, your message will be rejected. After the first one, you're going to win a 24 hours window to send more messages. Okay, that's how the policies works here. The first one have to be a template because this is verified. They can check the content, check for spam, and so on. Okay, back to the code. So here I'm sending the first message. Which one, Lucas? Check my WhatsApp. This one. And after that, the customer start to reply the message. So start course, for example. Now the way is completely different. Now the process it's gonna come from the callback. So if we go back to the API, we have this way here. It's the customer replying the messages. That's what the callback is. So it's gonna be here. I'm gonna start a new flow here because this is we sending message. This flow up here is we sending message. It's us sending message, and down here it's it's us receiving messages. Okay. So action handle. Again, we are going to have a Laravel request class to deal with the payload. The payload can be quite big. So what is the payload? This is the payload. You see? Sometimes it's a big payload. So this class basically get all the information I need for my action, which is the process message callback. And here is where the magic really happens. This callback is going to have a DTO, get all the information I need, and here we're going to decide, hey, is this message the type of message that have buttons? If so, go this way. Is this a simple text message? If yes, go this way. And here I'm gonna trigger a domain event, message received, and here I'm gonna trigger the same event, message received as well. So at this point, message received event, the same flow will happen. This message received event, which is a domain event, will have a Laravel event, message received event that will have a Laravel listener that will call another action. Everything goes through actions, my use case. And here I will handle the message received. After that, I'm going to start the strategy pattern logic. Amen. Finally, we got to this strategy pattern. So my way to decide which strategy to deal with is using the buttons as reference. The start course, it's a strategy. The dive deeper, it's another strategy, and help or support is another strategy. If you go here, if we go back here, let's see here, resolve strategy. If there's a new conversation, we need to resolve this strategy. Remember, the flow strategy resolver, it's a factory pattern because I am creating new instance using the Laravel injection container, the Laravel container, which is the one that deals with dependency injection. If you see that app, it's the Laravel container handling dependencies. Okay, so if start course, this strategy. If dive deeper, this strategy. If help or support, this another strategy. And all of them implements the iMessage flow, which is the contract for that strategy. Okay, remember the explanation about the strategy pattern. And what about the rest? After the strategy, after we know which strategy to choose, we have the start strategy method. And this guy is, oh yeah, this is only for the domain to store the strategy. Here, the conversation have the strategy class start. You see, start course strategy, current step, ask course. So let's see here, strategy handle. This comes from the strategy, and here the IDE is smart enough to know which strategy to recommend for me based on the interface. So the start course strategy is the one that I'm going to pick. And inside this guy, I have the chain of responsibility. I'm gonna leave as a task for you guys, since the video is too big at this point, to search about the chain of responsibility. But basically, I'm using the pipeline pattern, the Laravel pipeline pattern, which is an abstraction of the chain of responsibility pattern. So I provide steps. Each step will have this structure with a data parameter, and then in the closure with the next. And if this is the pipe I should process, I will process. Otherwise, I will pass along to the next pipe. That's how it works. If I am the one to handle the request, this pipe will handle the request. Otherwise, if it's not the proper pipe, go to the next one and do the same verification. That's how it works. You don't know which pipe is going to handle the request. You only pass all possibilities to the list and let the pipes to decide which one will be handled by the system, okay? So there is this flow process, and this is the pipeline from Laravel, the steps, and then I go through the steps and then I process the pipelines, okay? And yeah, that's pretty much the steps, right? So where I am right now, I am inside the start course, and now I'm going to pick DDD. And which step should I go? Ask email is the next one to be processed. So let's go here to the Laravel cloud. Let's get the next one. I'm gonna place here. Now the next step is save email. So it's asking the email, and after that we'll save the email, okay? So I'm gonna put my email here. After that, I'm going to receive another callback from Meta here, my email here. I'm gonna copy and process this guy. And here we go. Your mail has been saved successfully. Thank you for the information. And after that, this last pipe will save the email and will trigger the domain event finish, and this will publish the conversation finish event, the last flow here, which will have another Laravel event called conversation finish event that will have a listener as usual, No, not this one. The conversation finished listener. And finally, this will call an action called handle conversation finish, which will send the last message. Everything using the repository pattern, using facades, and isolating the domain layer. Well, guys, that's it. I'm very tired right now. Probably even my English is failing right now, but that's okay. I don't mind. But I'll stop this video, and we can work in more steps, because by now this is not a small project. As you could see, we have at least 5 flows here, and I was able to work only on the first flow. This is the only flow I could work. It is missing right now the dive deeper flow, the help or support flow as well. That there are a lot of cases that I need to test as well. For example, start to send garbage, stuff like that, and see how that goes in my project, how the flow will deal with this kind of mess. Do you see garbage here? I have to test more these scenarios and try to break the flow. The ideal scenario is to every time I send garbage like that, to repeat the last step. So the system would say, hey, I did not understand, please type a valid email. Or if I am at this step, it would send the same message, hey, I could not understand your request, and send the same buttons again, giving options to the user continue the conversation. And there is the scenario where I need to, if the customer is no longer replying, after 24 hours, for example, I need to finish the conversation. There is this other scenario as well. So, do you see? Conversation finished. If I start a new conversation from scratch, the status is gonna be active, and this can be like that forever, because every time I try to start a new conversation, I will receive an error with a conflict saying conversation already started. Contact already has an active conversation, okay? This can happen. Everything needs to be finished. That way I can send new conversations. Okay, guys. Finished. I'm done. Very tired. See ya. So guys, I hope you enjoyed the video. Subscribe, leave it a like. This helps a lot the channel to grow. I do have some updates to add to this project, such as adding unit tests, integration tests. I wanna also make the queue implementation, where I will deal with events using queue. The way the project is today, we are not storing the callback that comes from Meta. So if we lose the callback, that's it. We are no longer able to continue the conversation. So we have to solve that problem, because if the app fails, we have the event stored, so we can retry. We can add a retry logic to process again that event, and yeah, things like that. I'll keep you guys posted, but definitely there will be more things to add to this project. Okay, so see you in the next video. Bye bye.